This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Heather Sells. The impeachment case against President Trump gets a high-profile debate today by experts on the Constitution. It is happening during the first impeachment hearing by the House Judiciary Committee. 4 law school professors are sharing their views on whether or not the impeachment proceedings fall in line with the Constitution. The 3 professors called by the Democrats say they think Trump's actions with Ukraine meet the definition of high crimes and misdemeanors. But Republican witness Jonathan Turley of George Washington University, who's emphasized he's not a supporter of Trump, disagrees.
I'm concerned about lowering impeachment standards to fit a paucity of evidence and an abundance of anger. I believe this impeachment not only fails to satisfy the standard of past impeachments, but would create a dangerous precedent for future impeachments.
Turley said this morning that Trump's call with Ukraine was, quote, anything but perfect, but said that Democrats were bringing a slipshod impeachment case against the president based on secondhand information. And we go now to our chief political analyst, David Brody, at our Washington Bureau for more. David, we heard really different takes this morning from the impeachment experts, 3 called by Democrats and 1 called by the Republicans. The Democratic experts said that it's clear the president misused his office for personal gain, which constitutes treason and bribery. But the Republican expert, Jonathan Turley, said there's not compelling evidence of bribery. What is your take on all of this?
Well, there are a couple things to unpack here. First of all, what Jonathan Turley said specifically, which I thought was interesting, he called it, this isn't improvisational jazz. He said, close is not good enough. In other words, he's saying that Supreme Court precedent on bribery means you actually have to have an explicit agreement for a campaign donation or a gift to a contract of some sort. There's nothing here of that sort explicitly, and that's why it might be close, but it's not bribery at all.
David, I noticed that the Associated Press is calling this an ever-hardening partisan split over the swift-moving proceedings that are dividing Congress. What is your sense? Are Democrats swaying any Republicans to consider the president's removal?
100% not. As a matter of fact, this was a botched opportunity for the Democrats. Look, you're telling me, Heather, that the Democrats couldn't find 1 law professor in all of America that voted for Trump and now says, actually, I'm for impeachment based on constitutional law. There's not 1 law professor in the entire country. No, instead, they found 3 law professors, all liberal in nature, that make Ruth Bader Ginsburg look like a moderate. I mean, this was the RBG trio, if you will. And look, if you're going to, I mean, what is this about? Is it about scoring points on constitutional law, or is it about moving public opinion? And I got to tell you, if it's about moving public opinion, nothing was done today.
Jonathan Turley was in essence warning that Democrats are politicizing the impeachment process by rushing it and lowering the standards and warning that if they impeach the president based on inadequate evidence, future presidents are going to suffer. The whole country is going to suffer. Do you think that this argument concerned any Democrats or independent voters out there?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, look, here's the deal. This is going to be a partisan impeachment vote. And if you go back to 1998, 31 Democrats, when Bill Clinton was going through the impeachment process, 31 Democrats voted to start formal impeachment proceeding hearings. 31 Democrats. How many Republicans here? 0. I understand we're in a different culture now, different time, much more partisan. But look, that was bipartisan in nature at the time, at least the hearings were. This time, not at all. So even Jerry Nadler, there's video circulating on Twitter today, and it's back from 1998. Jerry Nadler, the congressman, actually saying that this should be done in a bipartisan way, and clearly it's not.
David, we're hearing that an impeachment vote is likely by Christmas. How do you see this all playing out?
Yeah, I think keep your calendar open for the week of December 16th. I think that's when it's going to happen. I don't mean actually Monday, December 16th, but sometime during that week, most likely on a Friday night while we're all trying to get off work, and instead they're going to probably be having an impeachment vote. 100% that this is going to go through in terms of them voting. No expectation that any of the Democrats, those moderate Democrats, or I shouldn't say moderate Democrats, but they're from moderate Trump districts, 31 of them, would change their mind. Look, Republicans need 18 Democrats to side with them to stop the impeachment vote from a resounding yes. I don't think they're going to get 18 Democrats at this point.
All right, David Brody, thanks for your insights.
Thanks, Heather.
Well, in other news today, while Turkey continues its invasion into northeast Syria, the country is now taking aim at the Mediterranean Sea. Turkey signed a deal with Libya's internationally recognized government over who controls the Mediterranean. The deal designates new maritime boundaries between the two nations in the eastern Mediterranean and signals both countries' attempts to stake claims in these highly coveted waters. It essentially cuts the Mediterranean in half. One Middle East analyst calls it a blatant power grab by Turkish President Recep Erdogan and an attempt to revive the Ottoman Empire. Well, the Chinese government says that the United States will, quote, pay a price and face countermeasures after a bill condemning the country's treatment of Muslims passes the U.S. Congress. Our senior international correspondent George Thomas is here with more on the bill and China's threats of retaliation. George.
That's right. House lawmakers overwhelmingly voted in favor of the Uyghur Act, requiring the Trump administration to condemn China's widespread abuses against Muslims. Human rights groups say China is holding more than 1 million Muslim ethnic minorities in mass detention camps, you see right there, in northwestern Xinjiang province. The goal? Stripping them of their faith and their cultural identity. China, as you can imagine, has denied the claim, saying the camps are, quote, vocational training centers. A similar bill, which passed the Senate, urges the Trump administration to slap sanctions on China and top government officials for their treatment of the Uyghur people. A Chinese spokesperson claims his government is fighting Islamic extremism in Xinjiang province.
This bill deliberately smears the human rights condition in Xinjiang, slanders China's efforts in de-radicalization and counterterrorism, and viciously attacks the Chinese government's Xinjiang policy. It seriously violates international law and basic norms governing international relations and grossly interferes in China's internal affairs.
The House and Senate bills need to be reconciled before it lands on the president's desk. It is unclear if the president, Heather, will sign or veto the bill.
Okay, so George, you've been to China's Xinjiang province. Tell us about what you saw happening to Muslims there.
Well, recently, just in the last week and a half, confidential documents were leaked to a group of international journalists. And what it describes in these documents, Heather, is a systematic attempt to eradicate ideological and behavioral patterns within these million-plus Muslims that are being held in these mass detention centers. Basically, doors are locked. There are prison posts, guard posts all over the place. They are told you're not allowed to escape from this detention center. In essence, what human rights activists are saying is that the Chinese government is trying to strip every single of the 10 million ethnic Uyghur Muslims of their faith and everything they believe in, from their religious practices to what they eat, how they dress, how they say their prayers, even their language. They're forcing these Uyghur Muslims to embrace the Mandarin language.
It's incredibly sad to hear all this. The bill, of course, did get overwhelming bipartisan support. What is it that's rallying both parties?
Yeah, so two most important points in this bill. One, it for the very first time proposes sanctioning one of China's top leaders in the bureaucratic Politburo. That has never happened. In fact, it's the Secretary General of the Xinjiang province, the equivalent of a governor. So that this bill says we need to slap sanctions on them. Secondly, any Chinese entity, foreign entity that was involved in creating this mass detention center has to be penalized as well.
All right, George Thomas, thanks for following this.
You're welcome.
Well, our next story is a wake-up call for parents. The retail giant Amazon is selling a children's book that teaches how to summon demons. The title, A Children's Book of Demons. The description tells kids to use what are called sigils, and that is a symbol that is said to have magical powers. Amazon also offers other children's books about demons and the devil. Some parents spoke out on the comments page. One said, demons are evil and they don't care about you or your children. They are liars, deceivers. They're there to steal, kill, and destroy. You can see the full story on this at cbnnews.com. Well, the author of a new book on the Trump presidency says that he is receiving death threats. Presidential historian Doug Weed wrote the book titled Inside Trump's White House, The Real Story of His Presidency. It's getting praise from conservatives for its positive take, while some who don't like the book or the president are going in a vastly different direction.
They started coming as soon as the book was announced. They named our children. They had a lot of detail about my life and our children's life to make it kind of scary. And then death threats from other IP addresses and other sources. And some people don't want the book published. A lot of people are making a lot of money the way things are right now. There are these big monopolies, as you know, and then they pass stimulus bills that exempt these big companies from the regulations that they get passed, and they're multinational, and they're linked to China. So they don't like this president. He's overthrowing the tables and breaking the dishes, and they like things the way they are. And he's restoring the economy and restoring free markets, so they don't like it.
Coming up, a Christmas battle as one mother stands up for her daughter's right to sing Joy to the World.
To have sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
Joy to the World is a Christmas classic that many people sing to celebrate the season, but one school district told a young girl that she couldn't until her mom fought back. Our Gary Lane has the story with social commentator and radio host Todd Starnes.
Todd, tell us what happened at the school with the classic Christmas song, Joy to the World.
Well, this is a really incredible story. An eighth grader was going to submit a piano performance piece, and she submitted an instrumental version of Joy to the World, a beautiful classic Christmas song. Well, the school district, the charter school, South Sutter Charter School, they rejected the song. They said it was too religious, that it was not culturally sensitive, and that it might offend people. And the mom here got involved, and she called the school district, and again, they affirmed their ban on the song Joy to the World. So we had this mom on the program, Julianne Benzel, and I asked her why she didn't just go ahead and find another song. And she said, had she done that, then it would have been the death knell for the First Amendment, because, again, it is a slippery slope. So this mom did what I have been calling people to do in my new book, Culture Jihad. She decided to fight back. and she decided to jingle somebody's bells down at the school district headquarters. So she got a hold of some friends of mine, Pacific Justice Institute, Brad Dacus and his Religious Liberty Organization, and all it took for the school district to reverse the decision was for Brad Dacus to pick up the telephone and threaten to sue this charter school. Within a matter of minutes, the school district reversed its decision, and this little girl was able to submit Joy to the World as her piano piece.
And what was the reaction of the parents and the students to that?
Well, look, this was, and here's the irony of this story. This was not some sort of a group performance. This was an assignment that had to be submitted by video. So the only person who was going to see this performance was, in fact, the instructor. So that was the person who apparently was triggered by Joy to the World and words like Lord and Savior and King. But I think the bigger story here is the mom deciding to fight back. And that is a call to action for every freedom-loving Christian patriot in America. We have to be willing to take a stand, and we have to be willing to speak out when our constitutional rights have been violated.
After all, Todd, it's hard to imagine a song about joy being offensive. This is Christmas, joy, Jesus. You say it's actually an attack on the foundation of our nation. Explain, please.
Oh, nothing offends the godless. Nothing triggers the godless, much like the little Lord Jesus asleep in the hay. As a matter of fact, the school district suggested that the little girl, instead of playing Joy to the World, should play something secular like Jingle Bells. This is an attack on religious liberty, and it's an attack on the foundation of our country. Keep in mind, we are one nation under God. And as I write in my book, I believe that we are, in fact, a Christian nation. Our founding fathers meant to create a Christian nation. And that's why I believe we have seen this vicious assault on religious liberty in America. And that's why the left wants to eradicate Christianity, not just from the public marketplace, but also from our public classrooms. They want to redefine what God defined. They want to redefine what our founding fathers created in this great nation. And that's why good-hearted people of faith have to take a stand and fight back.
And it goes beyond the political. It's really a spiritual battle as well. Todd Starnes, radio host and commentator, thanks for bringing us this important story.
Thank you.
Coming up, Studio 5 sits down with the director of It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood and the real journalist behind the character in the movie.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the Home Front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
The box office hit It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood stars Tom Hanks, and it tells the story of the life of the children's television icon, Mr. Rogers. Our Ephraim Graham sat down with the director of that movie to talk about how they made it and the real-life reporter behind the one in the movie.
This piece will be for an issue about heroes. Do you consider yourself a hero?
I don't think of myself as a hero. No, not at all.
What about Mr. Rogers? Is he a hero?
I don't understand the question.
Well, there's you, Fred, and then there's the character you play, Mr. Rogers.
You say that Fred Rogers is the first interview subject that actually became a friend of yours. Why do you think that is, and where would you be without that friendship?
Fred became a friend because Fred, I think, insisted on becoming a friend.
Hello, Lord. Oh, it's nice to meet you. What? Are you all right?
Play at the plate.
Oh, mercy, that looks like it hurts.
Let's chat afterwards.
He was a person who, I mean, I thought I was gonna, go there and sort of be in control. And Fred, I think, had a intention and a design for like what was going to happen before I ever stepped in the room. And I just felt when I met Fred that he, over time, I saw this and felt this, that he saw something in me that I did not necessarily see in myself.
You said it was a play at the plate. Is that what happened to you?
I'm here to interview you, Mr. Rogers.
When you meet a person like that who basically insists that they see goodness in you, that they see potential in you, that they see kindness in you, it changes you. I can't sit here and say that, oh, Fred made me a good person, but he steered me towards that goodness.
Marielle, Tom Hanks wasn't always on board with doing this project. Looking at the film now, where would it be? How critical was it to get him?
It's hard to look back now because we have this happy ending, which is Tom Hanks played Mr. Rogers and did it so beautifully and embodied him and transformed into him in such a beautiful way. But we didn't think it was going to happen. It's hard to look back at that now and remember how much that seemed like there was no chance. He passed on the movie 3 different times. But there's really nobody else who could have played Mr. Rogers. I mean, the way we feel about Tom Hanks, it's like he occupies a similar part of our heart to the way we feel about Mr. Rogers, There's a warmth we feel toward him. So many people feel like he's their dad in the same way that people felt that way about Mr. Rogers. I can't imagine anybody else doing it.
Bill, for as long as you've known and worked with Fred Rogers, how different was he, the Fred Rogers we knew watching him on television, the Fred Rogers you knew personally?
As Fred would say, when people would say, it's not an act, he would say, what you see is what you get. What Fred was in front of the camera, Fred was in real life. That was really the magic of Fred Rogers. That's what he worked hard to be.
This is Fred Rogers.
Oh, hi.
Who is it?
Lois right here.
Oh, no, Andrea, while I have you, I just want to thank you so much for sharing Lloyd with us. Can't be easy him traveling with
Gavin at home.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that.
I read, Tom, you say that this film is a continuation of the gift of grace that Fred Rogers gave us. For all of you, how would you say that is the case?
I got remarkably lucky 21 years ago being assigned to meet Fred Rogers. And the thing about grace is that it by definition, it feels undeserved, that that you didn't do anything for it. It was just given to you. And I felt that way with Fred. I felt that he, chose me for his friendship. And then, 21 years later, I mean, we're still talking about it. There is something miraculous to the fact that, something 21 years ago would bear fruit now when so many people seem to need it.
And I think, you know, movies and things tend to happen when they're meant to happen, and for whatever reason, this movie was meant to happen now. There were incarnations of it that could have happened 5 years ago. There are versions of this movie that could have happened 20 years ago. And for whatever reason, we're having a collective moment, I think. The number of people who say to me every day, this is the movie I need right now, this is the movie I want to see. I think we're having a moment where the world feels like it's moving so fast. Things feel like they're so angry. There's a lot of violence. It feels scary. And to take this time that the movie asks you to take to remember what Fred could teach us, I think it feels like it's the right moment for it.
Duck Dynasty's Miss Kay opens up about the struggles of her family in earlier years and how Phil Robertson found Jesus.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Phil and Kay Robertson and their family had a very successful 11 seasons with their popular TV show Duck Dynasty. They are known for their bold faith, but in a recent interview, Miss Kay talked about their painful early years. The full story is at cbnnews.com. Miss Kay says that Phil struggled with alcohol abuse and they even separated before he gave his life to Christ. Miss Kay says she never would have imagined that they'd have the most popular reality show in history. And she says God has used it and their story to help many in their faith and their family. Well, that is it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Please remember that you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. We hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining us.